You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Well, we have it again, folks. We have it yet again. That would be another one of those pinch me moments because of this podcast. So thank you all so much for tuning in and making these type of things possible for little old me. And I hope you appreciate this, because today I am talking to the great Tommy Emmanuel. Yes, one of the guitarists of a generation. The dude took the time to spend an hour plus and chat with me about his career, about life, about his philosophies, about his story. It's a great conversation. I really, really can't believe I got to do this. I hope I can do it again someday. Tommy is a gentleman and a wonderful dude, and I quite enjoyed this conversation. And I think you will too. But I have one small favor, one tiny favor to ask. If you could please, wherever you're listening to this podcast, please like it. Please leave a comment if that's a thing. Please subscribe if you're not. There are a lot of people who listen that aren't subscribers of the show. And if you could do that for me, that would mean the world. And it really does help out a lot. How does it help? It helps other people find the show. And by more people finding the show, I get more opportunities to do things like this. So if you could, I'd really appreciate it. And without further ado, let's get into this one with the legend himself, Mr. Tommy Emmanuel. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff. Occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland. With me today, I have Tommy Emmanuel. What's going on, man? Dude.
I'm sitting here in my lounge room talking to you over there in Portland, Oregon. Mm-hmm. I'm in Nashville.
You're in Nashville. Nashville is my home away from home. I deeply love Nashville. I see you got the Gruen shirt on.
Oh, yeah, Gruen. Yeah, George. Mm-hmm. He's a great guy. And he had his 80th birthday just recently. And he made a little video and said so many wonderful and wise things.
Yes, I saw that. I'd love to get him on the show. It's kind of silly that I haven't done that yet. I need to fix that.
Well, you'd need more than 60 minutes, I can tell you.
Oh, see, I just tell people 60 minutes. I got all day. I book solidly around these in case they run long. So if you decide you want to go longer, you just let me know. I'm game.
Yes, sir.
Well, Tommy, it's really cool to have you on the show.
Thanks, Blake.
I think like most people who play guitar, we've been following your exploits for many, many years. And I feel like you're one of the premier like guitar player. And has that been as far as career goes, was that an intentional thing, or you just did what you did and it kind of happened?
It's never been an intentional thing. And people always say, "Oh, are you nervous? The place is full of musicians." I said, I could care less. I get out and play for the people. That's what I really am, Blake. I'm a person who plays for the public, and if musicians like it, great. If they don't, I don't care.
Right.
I'm there for the people. That's what I'm here for. Of course, all my friends are musicians, and all the people I love and admire mostly are musicians, and my dearest friends are musicians. And but I'm not. I've never been needing to please other musicians. Only when I was very young, I think, when I was really young, inexperienced and ignorant, probably last week. When I finally got some studio work, I was very inexperienced. So I was always either playing too much or not listening enough or trying to impress people so they book me again, and usually playing, what wasn't right. And it took me years to grow out of that. But I did.
Yeah. I think we all go through that phase when we're young for some reason. We're
Yeah.
like, I'm going to impress somebody with what
Oh,
I'm going to do.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
guys do it to me every day. They come up and it's like, there it is, youthful enthusiasm. I love it. And a part of me wants to go, now look, if you just slow down, if you do this and do that, but I just go, because I was just like that, and they're going to have to learn the same way I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's
know?
one of those things when you're young, you're trying to do these things and you're trying to like maybe put out a version of yourself that maybe isn't entirely accurate. And as you get older, you realize that you can't really do anything but your own thing. But would you have listened to yourself anyway? If older Tommy came and talked to younger Tommy and was like, "Hey, knock it off," would you have listened?
I wonder. I think I would have listened and then charged ahead like a bull at a gate, and did my own thing anyway. I've always been a driven person, and every time someone said, "Oh, you can't do that," I would make sure that I did it.
Yes.
My first solo album, which was in the mid '80s, I recorded it in a few hours, and I went to EMI Records in Australia, and I said, I want to put this record out. I want to be on your label, and I want you to distribute it. And the boss guy said, look, there's no market for instrumental music. There's no market at all. And I said, I just need you to put it out. I'll build the market. And he just laughed out loud. And I said, you can laugh all you want, but I'll show you. I will go and build the market. And I did. And I did. And they finally released the album in early '88. And I got offered the John Denver tour in Australia, opening for John Denver. And he was a big star in those days, if you're talking the late '80s. So
Huge.
I was playing to about 20,000 people a night. And I came out and played solo. And to the public, I was this new artist. They most of them hadn't seen me and was like, "What's this?" And they all bought the record, and the album in its first week debuted in the top 10. And the record company were like scratching their heads, but they just said to me, "There's no market for this music," And so that's youthful enthusiasm. But I've always been that way. I've always been like, you can tell me it won't work, but I'm not listening. I'm driven to do this, and of course, in my older age, I'm definitely a better listener, and everything. But I'm still just as driven as when I was 18 years old. I'm still the same, really. I've just got a few more years under my belt.
Yeah. What gave you you knew you could build this market? You were very confident. Was that just youthful enthusiasm, or was it the responses you were getting from people who'd never heard you before? What made you feel that way?
I knew it because I was already drawing a crowd at all the venues I played in Sydney. I was living in Sydney, working as a studio musician and playing in a couple of bands and everything. And then I would go out because I knew everybody, and I would book myself into this jazz club and then this wine bar and all that. And I would do the posters. I would put up the posters and put an ad in the paper. I'd pay for that myself. And bang, I would fill those places. And I started to build an audience which started out as, a small crowd in a small place, to multiple nights in a small place, then to a bigger place, then multiple nights in the bigger place. I built it by hand. And that's what I've done all my life. That's why you're talking to me today. And that's why you know me, is because I built it by hand. I had a lot of help, and Um, I've had a lot of great people in my life, and at the moment, I have to tell you that I'm so blessed with my management, my team around me, and it's taken a lifetime to find the right people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Yeah.
but I'll just give you a good example of why what I'm telling you is reality, Blake. So back when I was here living out at Chet Atkins' house, right, and we were working together, we were making the album the day Fingerpickers took over the world.
Yes.
Right? And Chet was playing Monday nights at a place called Cafe Milano, which was a place that Gibson owned. Anyway, Chet happened to say to me, have you got an agent? To book you here in America? And I said, no, I haven't got one yet. He said, okay, good. My agent, Steve Dahl, is coming down to the gig tonight. I'm going to introduce you and all that, and he's going to see you play, right? So I'm thinking, great, this is Chet Atkins, this is his agent. If Chet says this guy is really good, you got to book him, I'll be on the books, right? This is what I'm thinking, which is what most people would think, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So Steve comes in the dressing room, and Chet and I are sitting playing, and Chet says, hey, Steve, this is Tommy, and, he's amazing, and blah, and he just, waxed lyrical about me, as they say. And Steve says to me, well, are you looking for an agent? And I said, yes, sir, like that. And he said, well, you show me what you can do, and I'll see if I'm interested. End of story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's the story that I tell most young people, because young guitar players, wanting to get somewhere in our business, come to me and say, who's your agent? Can you give me his number, and blah, 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 and all that. And I said, you don't quite understand how this business works. You've got to create something that gets the attention of the right people, And that's why we have Polestar in America, because everybody in the business reads it. And the people who are really savvy and tuned in will see, this artist, I've never heard of him, but he keeps drawing a crowd. Let's have a look at him, stuff like that. So it's up to me, the artist, to draw the crowd, to do something to get the people, and then be consistent with it and have it grow. Soon as it starts to grow, everybody's interested, because, hey, where's this guy off to? And I can see he's doing well.
Yes, 100%. I see that. I see that on my side as well. Like,
I'm sure
it's I've been doing the podcast for about 10 years now. Which back in the day, people were like, "What's a podcast?" And I had to explain to them what that was before I could even get them on the show. And there's a lot of newer. It's not even necessarily younger, just newer people trying to do this stuff now. And they're like, "Well, how do you get sponsors? How do you get these different guests?" And it's like, it's the field of dreams, baby. You build it and they will come.
You build it. That's exactly, you're so right, Blake. And I think that's a principle that really applies, because this generation is they're so expecting of people to fall over themselves to help them. And really, we've got to build something that gets people's attention. It's up to us,
Yeah. And I think there's another side of that too. I maybe made that sound a little more simple than it is. It isn't just you build it and they will come. You build it and then you go find them and then they'll be interested. Like, you have to show them that you have something, because oftentimes there's 2,500 people vying for that same spot or that same attention. And you need to show people why you have something unique in the space, I think, no matter what that space is.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's kind of a punk rock attitude in a lot of ways. Now, I'm a little biased because that's my background. I come from that world and, grew up reading about all the DC hardcore bands, putting up posters and putting on their own house shows and developing their own culture. And I'm like, that just applies no matter what you're trying to do, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Relying on too many other people is a bad mistake too. When my brother Phil, rest his soul, and we had a wonderful duo, and we got a deal with Bose, so they gave us a big Bose PA with bass speakers and top end speakers. They gave us like 5,000 watts of Crown amps and we bought like an EV entertainer desk, and we did our own sound and our own mix from on stage, carried our own gear and our own lights, set it up and pulled it down every night and all that. We didn't want crew and help and all that. We did it all ourselves. And it really was a good thing because it was always consistent, and we knew how to maintain things. And we knew that most people who rented PAs wouldn't let you play at the volume that we were playing at. We
Mm-hmm.
wanted to sound like a rock band, and it was just two of us. And so we knew how to drive it, that we could
Mm-hmm.
do that. And so that's that thing of we make happen what we want to happen, but it's got to come from us.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and
Yeah.
there's another element to that too. Not having the crew. I mean, eventually, I think it's about a little bit of a self-awareness of where you're at in your career, right?
Oh yeah.
Because crew is expensive. Crew is wonderful to have, but everybody's got to eat. And I
Yeah.
always reference this because I look at stand-up comedians that play some of the same places that my favorite bands play, and they have themselves sometimes alone, maybe with a tour manager to help kind of coordinate
Yeah.
things, but a lot of times they're just by themselves and they
Yep.
get that whole paycheck.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the same paycheck goes to a band for all the members, all the crew, all the
Yep.
lighting technicians, all
and
the
and
everything.
everyone gets a
Yep.
little bit. Yeah. Well,
Yep.
I have to speak from my own experience here and say, from 1980 87 or 88, 89, around that time. From then to 1996, I employed 16 people. I had a band and crew full time, and they were on a wage, and I had to
Mm-hmm.
cover their tax and all that stuff. And I had to fly them around. I had to drive. We had to drive. We had to stay in hotels and all that stuff. So my overhead way back then was at least 30 grand a week. That was just
Easy.
my overhead. That's before
Mm-hmm.
I get anything. And thankfully I had some records out and I was on TV, so we were pulling good crowds and it was going well. But that's a big undertaking,
Mm-hmm.
and so I did that. And how I ended up doing what I'm doing now, playing solo, is during those early years with the band, every time, like every show, I would come out after the show and sign autographs and meet people. So when the show was over, my night wasn't over yet. I'd just been playing for nearly 3 hours. Then I'd come out and sign autographs for an hour, hour and a half, depending on how many people bought things and wanted a photo and stuff like that. But what I did notice is that people were saying things like, "We really loved the show. We loved the band. But the best part was when you just played on your own." And they
Mm.
kept saying that. And so, just as an experiment, after a tour, I rang my agent and I said, "I want you to book like 3 weeks of shows in this area where we were 3 months ago, whatever." And every show sold out. So I want to go back there where we're pulling good numbers. And I want to call it Tommy Emmanuel solo. And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm just going to play on my own." He said, "Oh, are you sure about that?" And I said, "Yep." He said, "All right." And the whole thing sold out and it was brilliant, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like, that's the road ahead, is that because I can lose the um, uh, employing 16 people, all that, and I can take home a bigger paycheck, and I can use that money to get myself overseas and to start working on Europe and America and England and all that. And that's what I did.
Oh, and this was still just back in Australia. In my brain, this was in the US already. So this was still down under.
Yes, this is all down under. Yeah.
Okay, that is a perfect jumping off point, because I was going to ask how you got from the full band to this, but now I would like to know, how hard was it to break through? You're doing well in Australia, you're crushing it down there. How was it to try to break through in these other markets?
Well, I was very lucky because Chet Atkins was one of my dearest friends and like a daddy to me. And I was already well established in his eyes. He knew what I was doing. He heard all my recordings. He invited me to record with him. And he got me on the Opry and stuff like that. And then told me, look, you need to come back to Nashville. This is where you belong. And things like that. I was still living in Australia. And like I started meeting people and playing in places like the Baked Potato in Los Angeles. And I got to know the guy who owned the place, Don Randy. And he was always happy to book me. So what I would do is I would be working in Australia, and there'd be a break coming up, and I would book a couple of shows at the Baked Potato, and I would fly myself Sydney to LA, do the shows, and fly back. I didn't make enough money to cover the airfare, but that was to make a start. That was my investment in me, and I think that our best investment is always in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Yeah.
Especially if you do it consistently. I think that some people make a mistake of trying to pump a ton of money or time or both in one fell swoop in maybe a 3 to 6 month period. I've seen this mostly in the music products world. And they pump a ton of stuff into it. It's going to be the next big thing. And it is for about 20 minutes. And then they burn out. They don't have the consistency to keep people's interest over the long term. And that is something that I think is applicable to both musicians and music products companies. It's like, you can't just dump it all in at once and think that that's going to be the big thing. That does work, but it's rare.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so grateful as I sit here talking with you. My gratitude is enormous for my life, for where I'm at, and the people who come to see me and all that. I'm so grateful. My shows sell well, and all the hard work and all the sticking at it has paid off, right? But most people don't know about all the years of financing myself, coming here, staying in a place, and paying for the accommodation well in advance when I had the money, stuff like that, and just trying to be where if I was in Nashville, I could get to know people. I could get to play here and there and be invited on things, like the Opry and all that sort of stuff. But, it takes time, and you just got to keep at it. But the other thing that is the most important thing is that you have to do something that people are ready and willing and able to run out and buy a ticket to come and see. Because I can tell you, if you're an artist who you don't play live much, and you've got some videos up on YouTube, and you get a lot of likes, and you get all these views and all that, the problem is they do not equal concert tickets sold.
No.
Those views do not equal that. So you still have to build it by hand. And, the bottom line is the world is full of guitar players that are so damn brilliant. And, a lot of them are better than me. And that's just the reality of it. However, only I sound like me. And That is my saving grace.
Yeah.
Only I write like me. But I still had to build it. And the other thing I wanted to say, Blake, was that when I walk on stage, it's going to be all or nothing every single time. I'm going to give you everything I got, and I'm not going to hold back anything,
Yeah.
And people know that. And when you build an audience from that perspective of, I really mean this is my life depends on this, they're going to come back because they want to see what you're going to do next.
Yes. Well, speaking to that, I'm in a position now that's really fortunate where I get a lot of requests for people to come on the show.
Right.
And sometimes I don't necessarily know who they are right away because there's a billion artists out there, more and more every day, right?
Yeah.
And I'll have to Google them and I'm really into this. That is my only filter. Like, I don't really care how big you are or like what you've done. Do I like what you do? Cool. Let's talk,
Yeah.
But then once in a while, one comes through the inbox that I don't have to Google. And you are obviously one of those. I was like, do you want to talk to Tommy? And I was like, well, duh. But I was thinking as you were describing that with the videos, and that's kind of the world I live in. So I understand that.
Yeah.
Why didn't I have to Google who you were? Right? Because you've kept consistent doing this thing for so long. It isn't like you just walked out into the street one day and you were the Tommy Emmanuel that everybody knows you today. It was show after show after show. And like you said, making those investments to fly to the States and then not make any money and fly home.
Yeah.
Why would most people think you're insane?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know one person who would have agreed with that, particularly in the early days when, people wanted to manage me. And when I said, well, I got to do this and I got to do that. And they said, oh, you can't do that. I said, you watch me, that's it. You can't. You can't put up your hands and say, well, that's too hard, or that's a crazy decision. Sometimes you have to just ignore that and say, I'm going to make this work. And I need to be in that market there. That's one of the reasons why, when I came to America the first time in 1980, it did something to me, and it's what I needed. It not only inspired me, but I saw, the guy playing guitar in the bar for tips at the Holiday Inn there on Broadway or in near Centennial Park in Nashville was a better player and singer than just about everyone I've heard back home. And he's playing for tips. So imagine how good the studio musicians who are going to play on his record in 10 years, whatever, imagine how good they are, And then, of course, I saw Larry Carlton, I saw Lee Ritenour, I saw Robin Ford, and B.B. King and Chet Atkins and, people like that. And I saw bands that were like Steve Lukather and people like that. And they just inspired the hell out of me. And I went back to Australia and just kept pushing it, and getting people around me that were really good. And it was just going great. But I was also in some way fighting an attitude of, you don't need to go to America. Damn those Americans. We're good out here. We're Australians, harumph. And I'm like, yes, I'm proud to be an Australian. But have you ever been to America?
Right.
You ever wonder why those people are making the records that we all love? Because they're so damn good. How do we get that good? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. That leads to something I want to talk about that you've probably discussed 400 billion times, but I'd like to hear it myself.
Okay.
How did you and Chet get so close? Because that's a man I would have loved to have met. I never did get to, but I would have loved to.
He was a sweetheart. He really was. Well, my father, who I was desperately trying to get close to when I was a kid, I'm one of 6 children, and I idolized my dad. And when I heard Chet Atkins when I was about 7, and I started trying to play that way, and my dad was amazed. He had no idea what I was doing. Neither did I know what Chet was doing. I was trying to make the sound that I heard on the record. That's all,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And anyway, I was 10 years old, and my dad had a massive heart attack and died. And it took the wind right out of my sails for a little while. And I retreated to Chet's records. They became my solace, my place to go, and to get through my grief. And I just decided one day to write a fan letter to him and kind of tell him what I was doing. So this letter said, "Dear Mr. Atkins, this is who I am. I'm trying to play some of your songs, and I love your records, and blah blah blah." And I put it in the envelope, and I wrote on the envelope, "Chet Atkins, Nashville, America." And I put a bunch of stamps on it and sent it, and he got it.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is 1966. And so he was the busiest guy in town then. He was producing so many artists and playing and doing the Opry and touring, and he was the A&R director of RCA Records, and he was a busy guy, and he took time to write back to me, sent me a photo, signed it, and everything, and we just stayed in touch, and then when I moved to the big city in Australia and started doing well, people would send him a tape of me playing at some wine bar or something, and it was probably horrible, but he must have seen and heard the potential in me, and I got a note came in the mail. And it was a handwritten note from the desk of Chet Atkins. And it just said, "I got your tape and I've listened to it. When you come to Nashville, call me." And he gave me his number.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that was it. So I had to figure out 7 years later, that's how long it took me working to have enough money to buy a return ticket to America from Australia. That's how struggling I was. It was hard, but anyway. So I arrived here in Nashville in 1980, and I checked into the Holiday Inn down the road, and I rang his office number, and his secretary said, "Mr. Atkins is playing golf today. He won't be in." And so I had to wait till the next morning. And so I rang the next morning right on 10 o'clock, and he answered the phone. And I said, "It's Tommy Emmanuel from Australia," thinking he won't have a clue who that is, And he said, "Hey, Tommy, I was just playing your tape to somebody. Where are you?" And I said, "I'm down the road at the Holiday Inn." And he said, "Well, come on down. I'll see you right now." So I said, "Okay." So I grabbed my guitar and I run down there, and I'm waiting downstairs, and his secretary, Caroline, is telling him that there's a kid down here waiting for him. And he comes down the stairs, and there he is. He looked exactly like he did on his records. And he came up to me, and he was so nice and such a gentleman. And he said, "Do you want to pick a little?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely." So he takes me into a side room and says, "Let me hear you play." So I start playing Me and Bobby McGee, his kind of version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm playing away. And he doesn't join in straight away. He just watches me. And then after the first chorus, when it goes into the next verse, he suddenly joined in. And what he played made me sound so good.
Nice.
What he played,
Mm-hmm.
it was the encyclopedia of the greatest things to play around a person. It was beautiful, and I felt 10 feet tall all of a sudden. I lost all my nerves, and I was so happy. I found someone to play with that I could relate to. And then I went into another tune, and he was all over it like a rash, man. He was on everything I was doing. And then he said, I want you to come upstairs and I want you to play with this guy. And it was Lenny Breau.
Oh,
And,
wow.
Yeah. And as we got to the top of the stairs, I could hear the guitar and I knew exactly who it was. And I said, oh, my God, it's Lenny Breau. And he said, oh, and you know about him. I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. And I came in and Chet introduced us, and we went straight into Cannonball Rag or something. And, we just started like really firing it up. And Chet got off the phone, grabbed his guitar and dived in. And the three of us played for hours, just song after song after song. And I heard Chet Atkins play stuff that I don't think anybody would have ever heard. It was like Charlie Parker, saxophone lines, and bebop. And I heard him doing stuff in the middle of tunes that were like, never heard that before, And of course, I think he got it from people like George Barnes, Django, Les Paul, and people like that. He had a lot of ammunition up there that he very rarely used in public, but I heard it, and I can tell you, it was a day to remember. Unbelievable.
That's incredible. I mean, to be a fly on the wall for that moment would have been something pretty special.
Do you know what here's a sad memory, Blake. There was a professional style cassette player with a microphone on the table in front of us, and none of us thought to turn it on.
Oh, man. The gold that would have been captured. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, I took Lenny to his gig where he was playing that night, and that was totally mind-blowing. I mean, it was music on a depth that was like scaring the hell out of me. I'd never heard such depth in what he was doing,
Talk about getting thrown right into the deepest end of the pool possible.
Exactly. A boy from the country from nowhere turns up there, and that's his first day in town. Holy smoke,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, when you tell people this, because this is, obviously way pre-internet and obviously way pre-everyone walking around with an HD camera in their pocket, did the people at home even believe you when you got back?
The people at home didn't really care much about, if you weren't a guitar player, then you didn't know who Chet Atkins was.
Okay.
But you knew who Angus Young was.
Of course. Yes, of course.
That's what I'm talking about. It's a whole different thing. Like when I got nominated for the Grammy the first time, it was with Chet. It was because of Chet, right? And every journalist who were instructed to interview me for an article because an Australian got nominated for a Grammy, whoopee, everybody said the same thing. Who the hell's Chet Atkins?
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just really weird. Like, it was the opposite experience to what happened in America. Like, when Chet and I made our album together and the album came out and we went on TV and all that, you'd be amazed how many people said, you got to record with Chet Atkins? How did you do that? Holy, he's only recorded with Les Paul and Jerry Reed and Mark Knopfler and, all this sort of stuff, and it was like, how the hell did you do that? And people in Australia was going, I know who Tommy is. Who the hell's Chet Atkins? You know what I mean? It was exactly the opposite, which is a shame. And it kind of hurt me on his behalf, and I felt like God, you ignorant bunch, but it's just how it is,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing. Like, all my neighbors around here where I live, most of them know me as Tommy, the guy who goes away a lot. Most of
Yeah.
so, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
The wonderful thing about my life, Blake, is that I don't have the scourge of fame. The uh, the curse of fame. There's there's something great about fame and all that, but there's a curse with it as well. And I've never looked for it. I've never looked for fame and fortune. I've always looked and known that doing a good job is what makes me happy.
Yes.
Not. Of course, I love being paid like everybody else. I love providing for my kids and putting them in good schools and having a roof over their head and all this sort of stuff, the same as every other dad and granddad. But I've never pursued fame and fortune. And I've just worked hard and tried to be in the right places at the right time and meet the right people and do it that way. But
Mm-hmm.
see, I can play the Ryman here next week and sell it out, right? 2,300 seats or something, and have the time of my life and have everybody on their feet going, great. It's all great, And then the next morning I can go to Starbucks and nobody knows who I am.
Yes.
And I love that.
I was having that conversation with my kids actually the other night because through doing all this stuff, I've gotten to have some friends that have reached that I can't go to the grocery store level,
Right.
and
Okay.
and I'm not envious of that at all. And
No.
my youngest kids, we went to Seattle and went to the My Chemical Romance show. I've told this a few times, but it was an incredible show, huge, stadium filling, and my youngest, my 6-year-old, is now obsessed with that band. He wants to be Gerard the frontman for Halloween, and it's the whole thing, right? But talking to my oldest in the car, he's 10, and he was like, so those guys are really famous, right? I'm like, they are really famous. And I said, I don't know if they can't go to the grocery store or not, but they're real close. They're close. And it's hilarious because kids, they're figuring things out. And he was like, well, Dad, you're kind of famous too. I'm like, the only time anybody knows who I am is when they're listening to this show or maybe at NAMM. And that's only 1.5% of the people maybe know who I am. Maybe.
There's a song I recorded on my album Accomplice One, and I had a different artist for each track. And the track I did with Ricky Skaggs, he sang it so beautifully. But there's a lyric in that song that I really love. It's written by a dear friend of mine, Mike McClellan, in Australia, and it's called. It's kind of like a bit of the story of my life. I'm like a song and dance man. I'm Mr. Showbiz, And anyway, so the last verse says, "I won't ask much of your time, or that you recall my name, because fame is just a momentary curse. But if you recall a song or two that lingers when I'm gone, then maybe a song and dance man could do worse."
Yeah,
and
that's good.
It's so true. And the bridge of that song is beautiful. It says, "I gave up looking for answers a long, long time ago. Life's just taking chances. Ask any dancer, 1 foot wrong and it's all undone." It's a beautiful verse, a beautiful bridge.
Mm-hmm.
But you see that life's just taking chances. When you're young, you got plenty of chances to take. When you get older, you got to think more about your chances, about the risks. I've been going through that with my my dear friend and my manager about, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that, I'd like to go play there. And he said, but you're just going to be the guinea pig again. You're going to a territory that is not really established,
Mm-hmm.
And I said, look, you've got to be the guinea pig sometime. He said, you've been the guinea pig most of your life, and it's time to think carefully about being the guinea pig.
Yeah.
And that's.
Mm-hmm.
I totally get that. But what we were talking about before, about how I went to LA and didn't make any money and all that was me taking the risk.
Yes.
And life's just taking chances.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to do it.
And I think that more people need to take a little bit of a risk and realize that some of these things that seem big and scary and have been set up in this world to maybe, I don't know if it's systemically or if it's just how it happened exactly, but I had to realize I wanted to do this full time. I really wanted, I shoved my way into, I was obsessed with guitars and gear and pedals and all this stuff. I was like, I want to work in that. I know I'm not going to make, lawyer money by doing it, but it'll be awesome. And I was like, how do I get in there?
I think you realize, like a lot of people, that most, even non-musicians, still love to talk about sound and music and guitars and gear and stuff like that. The world is full of people who are so curious about sound and things like that.
Yeah. And I just wanted it so bad. And then I was like, oh, but I got this career. I've been doing this for so long. What if it doesn't work out? Blah, 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 blah. And then I had to realize, like, you've worked so hard to get to this position that you hate. What if you put that same amount of effort into doing something that you love?
Exactly.
And see how that shakes out. And then if it doesn't shake out, that's the thing. If it doesn't work out, the thing that you don't really like is still there. You can still do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's an interesting thought. Like, I wake up in the morning on tour and my first thought is, I got a show tonight. Mm-hmm. I'm already excited. I've woken up, hooray, I'm still alive. And I got a show tonight, boom, boom, boom. And then I remember the conversations I've had with people who hate going to work, who hate their job, and they just do it and they barely scrape through because it's paying them enough money. And I think, oh, thank God that's not me.
Yep. Yes. 100%.
So that's what you're talking about.
It is 100%.
And, I like the fact that you're a family guy, you're a normal guy, and you're crazy about doing this, because that gives you a realistic view of what you're doing.
It helps a lot. I think sometimes I kick myself because I'm like, oh, I should have got started earlier. And then I think, no, this didn't exist earlier, so you couldn't have really done that. And then also, like, it does do that. It puts it into perspective, because there are things in every job, no matter how awesome your job is, that you don't really like doing. It's like, oh, I got to do the books this week. I got to answer these emails. I don't want to do that. And every time I catch myself doing that, I go, or you could be hanging upside down in the middle of an excavator covered in hydraulic oil. Which do you prefer? Answering some emails or doing that? It's pretty easy to decide which one is more preferable for me personally. Yeah. There are aspects of that job that I enjoyed, but that wasn't one of them, and it happened all the time. So, just realizing I could be back to roofing houses or something. That wasn't it for me.
I bet in summer it's a brutal job, and then in the middle of winter it's a totally brutal job.
Yeah. Fortunately, I only did it during the summer, so I only experienced the hot side. But during the winter here in Oregon, I don't think a lot of it happens. I think that's the big problem.
Because it'd be covered in snow. Yeah.
It's all wet and disgusting and whatever. Yeah. Well, Tommy, we are getting sort of close to the end of the main episode. Okay. And I got some classic questions I like to wrap these up on.
All right.
But before I do, I like to give you the chance to take the stage. You're talking to a few thousand people right now, which you're used to doing, but some people aren't. And you can say anything you want to say. You can shout out anybody you want to shout out, plug anything you want to plug. the floor is yours right now.
Oh, okay. All right. First of all, thank you for having me on. And it's been great conversation. And I've enjoyed every minute. And I have a new album out called Living in the Light. And mostly original songs. And there's a couple of vocal songs on there. And I recorded and mixed the whole thing in 4 days. And,
oh, wow.
It's all it all happened. Most of the songs were one take. It's an album I just went boom with, and enjoyed working with my friend Vance Powell, great engineer, producer, and he did an amazing job on this album. So Living in the Light, that's my new album.
Cool. Where did you go record that at?
At his studio called Sputnik Studios in Berry Hills in Nashville.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. When people are in Nashville, I have to ask these questions because, like I said, home away from home, and I whereabouts? So tell me more about this.
Yeah, there's a lot of great studios. There's Blackbird Studio in that area, and House of Blues Studio, and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. First of the final two questions.
Okay.
I'd be curious what your take on this is. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
The one I use the most is just the Boss Tuner.
Most popular answer.
Because it mutes, and it's red or green, and on stage you need that. You don't need that thing that spins around and tells you that your string is spinning at 476 megacycles per second. But you don't need any of that. You can do that off stage. On stage, you need to know if you're in tune or not. So that pedal has a green light and a red light, and always looking for the green.
That's right. Always looking for the green light. Yeah, that is definitely the most popular answer on the podcast is the tuner.
How about that?
It makes me wonder, how many of those things have they sold?
Well, there's about 5 in my house here.
Yeah, I think I've got 2 or 3 myself. So, we're
that's because they're as practical as knives and forks,
and about as indestructible too, which is great. Yeah. All right, final question: what is your favorite kind of pizza?
Pizza?
Yes.
Ham and pineapple.
Oh man, a ham and pineapple man.
Yeah,
that's one road I can't go down with you.
Oh, I love it.
I can't do the pineapple. Now, since you're in Nashville, do you have any favorite local pizza spots? Because I have a couple that I love.
I very rarely eat pizza. Usually, when I'm in Italy, I'll have pizza.
Well, of course.
Here in America, I have pizza occasionally, but pretty rarely. There's a Jets Pizza just down the road, and Little Tony's or something. But I've had good pizza here, but my favorite pizza is from Roma.
Yeah.
Mozzarella di bufala.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, buffalo mozzarella.
That sounds really good.
Oh my God, unbelievable!
Yeah. That sounds perfect.
And pomodorinis, the little tomatoes.
Oh yes.
So it's like real cheese, real tomatoes. Boom, that's your margarita pizza.
That sounds great.
It's worth traveling to Rome, not just to see the Vatican and all the amazing city, but to get yourself a mozzarella di bufala and pomodorini pizza.
I think if I go to Italy, I'm going to probably gain at least 30 to 70 pounds, but it'll be worth it. It'll be fine.
Well, the problem here in America is people's pizza is this thick. You go to Italy and the pizza is, wafer thin, very thin.
Yeah.
And it's delicious.
Yeah, I got to get that.
I don't see too many fat people over there. Yeah,
they do a lot of walking. That's got to help. Yeah, going up and down the hills. It's a lot of physical activity.
Yeah. Well, the problem here in America too many diet drinks, too much chemicals in drinks. And people really believe that diet drinks are going to help them lose weight. It's total bullshit. You're not going to stop drinking Diet Coke. It's bad for you. Drink water. It's better for you.
Water.
Water is good for you.
Yeah. Get 3 of these bad boys a day down the hatch.
See?
Yeah. There's a 40. People are drinking 40s. This is a 40 ounce of water. That's what I try to get down. Well, Tommy, thank you so much for hanging out. I could literally talk to you all day, but I know we got some other stuff to do, and maybe we'll try to get some weirdness done over on Patreon if you got a little time for that. Does that work for you?
Yep.
All right, everybody. For Tommy, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. Alrighty, folks, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did, although I think that might literally be impossible. That was one of the best episodes in a very long time. I loved that conversation. And Tommy was kind enough to hang out for just a little extra time over on Patreon. So if you'd like to hear that conversation, please go over to patreon.com/tonemmob, where for $5 a month, you can get access to the ad-free feed and extra bonus conversations like this one with the man himself. Huge shout out to Tommy and his team. I really, really appreciate you guys reaching out. Thank you again to Tommy for taking the time, and thank you for listening. Please share this with a friend. Please share it with somebody you think needs to hear it. Let's be honest, there's a lot of people that could get something out of this episode, so share it with them. All right, everybody, thank you so much, and I will talk to you on the internet very soon. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.